We have a major Celtics trade update on Anfernee Simons as a new report reveals some crucial details on what teams are interested in making a trade. Today, we break down a new team in the mix and what a trade would look like between them and the Celtics. Welcome into Celtics Digest, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning into today's show. Got lots to discuss and break down on the recent reports around Anfernee Simons. But before that, I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button. You see, we've noticed that 73% of you who watch these videos are not yet subscribed. What are you waiting for? Go down there, hit that subscribe button. You're watching us every day, so go down there and subscribe. It's 100% free. Plus, you're getting daily Celtics coverage, and you're joining one of the largest Celtics communities here on YouTube. Okay, let's talk about Anfernee Simons a little bit because he has been an interesting point of discussion for the Boston Celtics since he was moved here in the Jrue Holiday trade. Now, the point of all this is the Celtics really want to be under that first apron. Brad Stevens has time and time again mentioned that that was the ultimate goal. The way that can be achieved by moving Anfernee Simons. And while that has been largely reported, what exactly would a trade look like? Who are interested? / is this even a real possibility? Well, we do have confirmed reports that the 76ers and the Denver Nuggets are among the teams that have expressed interest for a possible trade of Anfernee Simons. This is all per Amico Hoops. But there was something that was maybe a little bit passed over in the article from Amico Hoops and kind of breaking down all this. And it was a very small note, but it was something that I believe should be talked about. You see, sources said that it was also an option for the Milwaukee Bucks, who could be another team that will make a run at Simons before training camp. Now, we go to the official one here. Keith Watkins of Heavy on Celtics saying, according to Sam Amico of Hoops Wire, the Milwaukee Bucks have been, quote, contemplating a trade for Simons. The fit makes sense. Milwaukee recently stretched and waived Damian Lillard, leaving a glaring hole in their backcourt, end quote. So, okay, we now know the Milwaukee Bucks are intrigued in the option of trading for Anfernee Simons. For the Boston Celtics, though, it's a big point of what they can get back and how they can make it a good thing that they're trading away Anfernee Simons. Because for the large part on this channel, I've been talking about how the Celtics don't really work with Anfernee Simons, and I think I may have missed the point a little bit to say that this guy is a good player. I'm not going to sit here and say that he would not be fun to watch on the Boston Celtics this year, and if a trade does not work out, I'm not going to be totally dismantled because I think he'd be fun to watch. Do I think he fits with what the Celtics are trying to do? / do I think he fits with the way the Celtics are coached? Not exactly. He's a defensive liability. I think his offense is great. However, I just don't know if I trust him in a winning situation, which we have other players, but I'd rather be under the first apron, and knowing he's going to be a free agent after this season just makes it all the more reason you should trade him away, so you're getting something in return, whether that be somebody you use later down the line, some draft capital, or even somebody else to go and move. So that's a big thing to kind of discuss in part of this. Let's talk about the potential trade packages. Here is the one we're going to talk about here today. The Boston Celtics would receive Bobby Portis, who has a $14.5 million contract and is signed through the 2027 season with a 2027 through 2028 player option. We'd also get Gary Trent Jr., Ryan Rollins, and then a 2026 second-round pick from Milwaukee. And the Bucks would receive Anfernee Simons at $25.3 million. So that is the trade, first of all. Let me know in the comment section, is this something right away that you like, right away that you consider? What are you thinking about this trade kind of right off the rip? Personally, I think it's a good trade. I think it's a decent one, especially when the main objective of this offseason was to get that salary off the books and try and get under that first apron. So we go back to the report from Keith Watkins of Heavy on Celtics saying, quote, they move off Simons, a $27.6 million salary for the 2025-2026 season, without attaching a first-round pick, which has been their priority all offseason. Instead of one big cap hit, they split it into multiple mid-sized contracts that are easier to move. This improves flexibility and avoids unnecessary strain as the franchise prepares for Jayson Tatum's eventual return, end quote. And that is a big thing to note. And when we go back and look at this trade, you're thinking about the money here, $25.3 million. In reality, though, the cap hit going to be closer to around the $27 million range for Anfernee Simons. So 14.5, 3.7, and $4 million. You're going to be right around that $22 million mark, you'd have to think, or $21 million. Actually, you're going to be over $22.3 million area. So in theory, you're still really close. I mean, I believe, if my math is right, you're still over that first apron by a little bit. So, but the big thing, again, you can move Trent, you can move Rollins, and you're under that cap hit right there. So that's a big thing to kind of, when you think about the Boston Celtics and knowing that their objective this offseason was to move off that, try and get a more suitable contract and, for the most part, get under the first apron so they can, again, not make this a gap year, but just have a more reliable asset for going in the future. It's something to consider. Continue on and why the Celtics would do this here. Keith Watkins again saying, quote, "On the court, Bobby Portis provides toughness and rebounding on a steady deal that runs through 2027. Trent Jr. adds perimeter shooting. Rollins is a developmental guard who could benefit from Boston's system," compared to Simons. "The incoming salaries are more manageable. They give the Celtics both immediate depth and future roster options," end quote. And so it opens up the possibility. Does this immediately get you under the first apron? Does this do what, a lot of people say the Celtics want to do? Not right away. But is it a much more manageable situation once you get here? 1,000%. And the big thing that I talked about, and I mentioned in the beginning of the show, the Bucks are a team to watch before training camp. If you look at it here, again, on the report, the sources say that the Bucks could be another team that makes a run signs before training camp, which would be huge because obviously, you have until a certain date to get under that little roster deadline, and it'd be a very good thing. Now, again, I do like Anfernee Simons, but at the same time, I think he'd be a very valuable trade asset, and this is a decent package back for him. You look at the stats that Simons has put up, you expect to have somewhat of a decent return back, right? Well, that kind of comes in the main point of Bobby Portis. You see here, he has a 13.9 point per game average last season and over 25 minutes per game. I do like that he's going to be a little bit more on the older side. He fits more with kind of the timeline in some ways of the Boston Celtics. Not to say that they're not trying to grow and develop these younger guards, and Anfernee Simons could fit into that mix, but as of right now, with the way the Celtics are being managed and with the way the Celtics are looking at the future of this organization, knowing they're going to hopefully, keep Jaylen Brown, keep Jayson Tatum together for the rest of their career, they'd like to go win another championship, and I would certainly like that too. Obviously, the goal behind that is the future, and Anfernee Simons, as much as you want to sit here and say, why not let him play this season? Why not keep him this season? Why not do all this? I would somewhat agree with you, but also I don't really want to keep him if we're not going to get something back. So it's definitely a different approach in some ways, but let's see what Keith has to say about it finally here. Trading Simons would clear salary and align with a more patient approach, but it would also mean punting on the chance to see him fit alongside Jaylen Brown in the short term. If the Celtics are serious about contending this season, moving Simons could cut into their depth at guard, end quote. And so that's the question for the Boston Celtics. I know we've had reports from Peyton Pritchard, saying this is not a gap year. Obviously, the center was a point of contention, but I really liked what we've seen from Neemias Queta over there, and at least played in the EuroLeague. So it's a nice thing to kind of see all these players across, saying this is not a gap year, this is all that. But until we get them on the court together and watch them play, I don't exactly know if we can fully make that a reality and can honestly believe that in our hearts that this is not going to be a gap year. And while I don't want it to be, and I think the East is terrible enough that it doesn't have to be, I want to know a couple things before I do that. And if we don't know that, then I don't know if I want to keep Anfernee Simons for a year when we're not going to pay him next year. Like that's very obvious. We're not going to pay him next season. So in that aspect, why have him for this season and go over that first apron and pay that tax if we're not going to keep him next year? And, we'd rather pay the tax maybe next year. So it's a kind of catch-22 in a lot of lights, but as of right now, we sit, we watch, and we try and see what happens in the oncoming future. But we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time here on Celtics Digest. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like I said, it's 100% free. We'll catch you later. Peace out, guys.